So here we go. So in this particular session, I'm going to show you how to fill up the questionnaire that we have, right? And here you see our information collection questionnaire. Now this may be a slightly updated version than what you may have, and if you find this version to be updated, then you can download this version from the doc repository, right? So it should be there in the online doc repository to which all our students have got access. So the first page of the questionnaire is used to record information about the client. Now before I go ahead, let me tell you that this is the questionnaire that we use in the real life, which means we are not using anything different. Alright. So here we record the client information. So name of the client company, the address, the personal contact details. Yes. So the personal contact details and so on. Correct. And then details of the person filling the information. So this would be a person from Technowrites' side. So maybe one of our writers or marketing guys. So filled by so and so person, the email ID of the person who's filling it and so on. Correct. Then the minutes of meeting sent date. So for every client meeting that we have, we prepare what is called as minutes of meeting. And this is also a part of our course. There is a separate session on minutes of meeting, and there is also assignment. So I'm sure you'll look at that in the due course of time. So minutes of meeting, when was it sent? Minutes of meeting sent by whom? Names of Technowrites team members who attended the meeting. So this first page is mostly for record purpose, or you can say the process purpose, right? And the actual questionnaire starts from the next page. Now in the footer of the questionnaire, you will see the version of the questionnaire. So if it is saying updated 17 Feb and your date does not match that, then you probably have a slightly old version, right? There may not be too many changes, but yes, there could be changes. And the reason for that is I like to keep on updating my training content. And once again, you can download the correct version. If you don't have it, you can download the correct version from the net. So the first page of the information questionnaire. So this questionnaire is for software application. So we are asking about the software application. So what is the nature of the application? Is it a standalone software? Is it a client server? Is it an app developed for a phone or tablet and so on? What is the purpose? Correct. So maybe to help calculating estimates, to help chat with people, or or to browse internet or whatever it is. So write down the purpose. Write down the operating systems. And nowadays a lot of applications are designed for multi-operating systems. So in that case, you will probably tick all of them. Correct. So let's say you may have an application designed for Windows XP as well as Linux as well as Mac and so on and so forth. So you'll select all the correct options. If there is anything else which is not mentioned here, you'll simply go ahead and write that here. Now, is the application designed for an individual or a group of users? There are a lot of applications which are designed for a lot of people working in one team, one group, one project, or maybe in one organization as well. So when a software is created for a number of users across the organization, it's typically called as an enterprise application. So which means it's a bigger application and there will be different number of users using it. So is it an enterprise application? If it is designed for groups, what is the estimated number of users in one organization? Do these users share a common database? Most of the enterprise applications will have a database. Correct? That's the data that they are going to share. What is the nature of work? So what do you want the writers to do? Will it be user documentation? That is things like user guides, online help files, or will it be technical documentation? So for example, writing test cases, use cases and so on. So both, or anything else that you may want to write about. How and when will the product be upgraded? So typically when I ask this question, the client asks me, why do you ask that question? And my simple answer is, well, if the product is going to be upgraded, maybe the help or the user guide will also have to be upgraded. Correct? So we have to think about that. Are any copyright notices to be included? Typically the answer is yes, but then a lot of people may not be aware of this. So that's why you have to ask them this question. Are any acknowledgements to be included? So typically if you are saying that okay, this software works on Microsoft Windows, now as a good company, correct, as a company of international repute, you would say in your document somewhere that we acknowledge Windows to be a registered trademark of Microsoft Corporation, something like that. So you would also want other companies to acknowledge your products, but then it's a good idea to include acknowledgements in the documentation. So we ask this question again. A number of times people may not even know, so they'll say, okay, why do you ask? Because if you are a good company, big company, then it's a standard practice to include that. Alright, user studies, so common users. Now if there are multiple types of users, then you'll have to make multiple copies of this particular page and fill it for every type of user. So what are the names of those users? So write down their names, correct. Now for every type of user, fill in this information. What is the educational background? What is the number of years of professional experience? What operating systems may the user have used? Which of the following packages the user may have used? Why do you ask all these questions? Number one, we are in the business of communication, and communication has a lot to do with target audience. You have to understand your target audience. So asking all these questions gives you an idea about how literate, how comfortable, how IT savvy is really this particular user. Based on that, you can decide what language you are going to use. For example, I must have mentioned during the course about a document called as Microsoft Manual of Style for technical publications. So if you use the MSTP or the Microsoft Manual of Style, you will realize that for some words they have given options like this can be used in the administrator's guide but should not be used in the user's guide. So there are certain words that you can use for sort of expert users, but you cannot use them for novice users. So asking all these questions gives us an idea about what the user is expecting, or what he'll probably be able to understand without too much of explanation. Which of the following email applications may the user have used? Any planning tools like Microsoft Project, Primavera, something else, there are a whole lot of them, right? Which of the following sites or web services may the user have used? Google, Wikipedia, YouTube, and so on and so forth. Which of the following web conferencing tools may the user have used? WebEx, TeamViewer, GoToMeeting, GoToTraining, right? Wikipedia should not be here, I believe. It's not a web conferencing tool. Let's delete it, right? And so on. Administrators. Now, if the user is an administrator, right, then what is that the user knows? So try to identify the role of that person also. Now, is that person a network administrator? Is that person a database administrator, a management information systems, or a MIS administrator? This is an old term, and you will probably not see this in IT industry or IT companies, but it may still be there in some of the manufacturing companies and so on. So fill up the following information for every user role mentioned here. So what is the educational background, years of experience? Now some questions are common or similar to the previous page, whereas some questions are different. So if this person is an administrator, maybe he has worked on a database, maybe he is aware of Oracle, maybe he is aware of Microsoft SQL or MySQL and so on, correct? So as I said, some of the questions over here will be common, right? Let's again delete this from here, not required. Any remote administration tools. So many administrators now have the capability of logging onto your computer from wherever they are in the world, and they'll tell you that don't do anything, I'm going to remotely set up your computer. Now this is a very common thing for an administrator. So maybe they have used something like that. So again, this person knows technology to this extent, so what is that I really should explain to him. Any special purpose administrator tool use or anything else, so you capture that. Then basic issues. So for example, which language are you going to follow? Now typically for IT projects we work in US English, typically. But then if the users are going to be in India or in the UK, the client may tell you to follow UK English. So it's a good idea to ask that question and get it confirmed. Is there any recommended style guide to be followed? Many companies may have their own style guides. For example, Microsoft has a style guide, Sun has a style guide, IBM has a style guide. So ask them if they have their own style guide. If yes, they may want you to use that. Now I have had incidences in my career where we started using an industry standard style guide, and when we are going to deliver the document, the client said that wait a minute, we have not followed our organization style guide. And I said, but this style guide was never given to me. He said, actually I also did not know, I came to know today morning. While we sort of shared it with somebody else, that person said, well, we are not following the style guide, so make it compliant. So again we had to put 2-3 days of extra work to make it compliant. Now the point here is, had I raised that question in time, saying that what is the style guide you want me to follow, maybe he could have searched it and given it to me that here is the style guide you need to follow. Correct? Sometimes if not a style guide, they may just give you a template saying that this is a word template, so use this template and write. Correct? Something like that. What are the minimum hardware requirements for the software? So what version of machine, what processor, how much of RAM, how much of hard disk, does it need any other special purpose hardware like graphics card, and so on and so forth. What are the minimum software requirements? Does it work on Windows XP, or it needs Windows 7.1, or it needs Windows 8, or does it work on any version of Linux? So you may want to ask all these questions. Is the user training required? Typically the answer is yes. Correct? Now how is the training going to happen? Is it going to be through a classroom where a trainer trains the user, or will it be like hands-on, you actually give the users the system to work on, or will it be through CBT, which is computer-based training, WBT is web-based training, tool videos. So maybe you have created 5-minute, 6-minute tools similar to the video snippets that we have got in our course. So maybe you have created tool videos and they are going to be used. Tool simulations. So this is not just a recording, but then a simulation where you can actually click on an option and so on. Now for developing this, we use a tool called as Captivate for tool simulations. So, or is the training going to happen through documentation only? Maybe the product is very simple. There are no, videos or simulations required. You can simply say the user will read this and understand. That's fine. A number of times it could be a combination. So a number of times we may say that, okay, the critical part we may give him a CBT. For the non-critical part we may give him videos, and for everything else we may give him documentation. Correct? Now one more reasons why we ask this question, as I told you earlier, this is the real questionnaire that we use in real life. Correct? So many times when we ask this questionnaire, it generates more revenue for our organization. Somebody says, why do you ask that question? Oh yes, actually we wanted the videos and the simulations also. Then I tell him, yes sir, we can help you develop that as well. As a technical writer, whether you are working as a freelancer, whether you are working through an agency like Technowrites, or whether you are working as an employed, technical writer in that organization, you are still selling your services. You have got an internal customer. And by saying that I can help you develop those videos, or I can help you build those simulations and so on, you are actually selling your higher value to your organization. So your project managers, your organization will be able to appreciate you and your services better. So you can also go ahead and ask this question. Software simulation, demo videos, are they required and so on? Is the software registration required? If yes, is it done over internet, or then is there some other procedure for doing that? Will there be a help desk for the users? Correct? If software registration is required, somewhere you may have to document the registration procedure. If there is a help desk, maybe they are going to use a document that you develop. Maybe you should have a FAQs, frequently asked questions with their answers. Maybe you should have a troubleshooting guide and so on. So a lot of ideas will come up based on the answers that you are going to get to all these questions. Right? Will a prospective client be given a demo software? Yes. Will it accompany a user manual or help file? Well, we never thought about it. Okay, I can deliver you a simple to use help, maybe the second draft or first draft, which you can send along with the demo, and by the time the actual package gets built, I'll give you the complete help file. Your client may be happy with that. Again, what are you doing? You are giving higher value for the same amount of work that you are doing. Amount of work that you are doing is same, but then the user is getting much more. Why? Now even for a demo user you are giving a help. Demo version user you are giving a help. So the user would like to see, okay, the software comes with a help file also. So his decision to buy that software may probably be faster, right? Are the installation details ready? If yes, then can I get them? If no, when will they be ready? If no, can I accompany your person when he is doing the installation? Can I sit with him? Can I see what he is doing? Correct? Will the users be asked to do the installations themselves? What part of information can be hidden or secured? So a number of times while we are documenting a package, we may collect a lot of information and we may actually document it, but we may not always put it in the user guide because it could be dangerous to give some part of information to all parts of information to a user. So though you may collect everything, you may simply take that chapter out and keep it as a separate document. You may not give it to the users, but then that part of information could still be useful for the engineers or the developers. Correct? So for example, I may not give any service or maintenance procedure of engineering equipment if I think that the user will not be able to do this servicing. You may have read this for a number of devices that we use, electronic devices especially. If you try to open it with a screwdriver, there is a sticker which says there are no user serviceable parts inside, and if you open that cover, the warranty of the unit will be void. So it's not recommended that you open that unit at all. Correct? So I may collect the information, I may not share it. Maybe it's related to configuration, maybe it's related to the auto backup file, maybe it's related to the default settings, maybe it's related to the error message location, and so on and so forth. So though you may be collecting it, you may not want to distribute it to every user. That's okay, but it's good to ask that question. Work related issues, where will the work be done? So is it going to be in the client's office or will it be in our office, that is Technowrites office? Maybe a combination of both. Now in your case, as I said, this is a real life questionnaire that I am sharing with you. You can edit this. So if you are a freelancer, you will say it will be in your office. So if you are an employed writer, it may not be a client office. It is your company only. So those little changes you will need to make. Combination of both mentioned above maybe, or maybe something else altogether. What tools will be required to do the documentation? A number of times the client may specifically tell you that please use Microsoft Word so and so version. Correct? Or then please use FrameMaker, or please use RoboHelp because we want a help file output and so on. But a number of times the client may even ask you, okay, can you suggest? Now I may use, let's say, a very powerful tool like Structured FrameMaker to develop that document. Question is, I am a consultant, I am a third party, I am not an employee of that organization. What happens when I deliver the document and I move out? Now will somebody else in that organization be able to maintain that document? Structured FrameMaker, the fellow may not even be able to open that file. Forget about making changes to that. So then there will be a dependency on me. Correct? A number of times, and a related question will be, and it's right here, who is going to buy these tools? For example, I was working for a company and they wanted me to develop a help file. And I said, since you are a product development company, you would have multiple products and multiple versions. They said, yes, you are right. So I said, why don't you buy RoboHelp for your own company? Because I am going to develop the help file in RoboHelp. After I deliver that document to you, will you be able to make changes? Unless you have the license version of RoboHelp, you will not be able to make changes. But if you buy a license, you will be able to make changes to whatever files I am delivering to you. So maintenance can be done on your own. Point number one. Point number two, for the other products that you are developing, correct? You can also develop the help file using this tool. So your cost of buying that tool is getting distributed over 5 products or 10 products. So it's a worthwhile investment. So at times, my client also depends on me to make this recommendation. Correct? So we make this recommendation. If the work is going to be done in the client's office, what will be the work timing? What will be the location? What are the proposed milestones? Typically I get an answer like, well, the ideal end date was yesterday. That's normal. Correct? So we try to keep them as realistic as possible. How many tech writers will be required to do the work? Sometimes the client will specifically tell you that we have the product development team, we already have a team of technical writers. All that you need to do is give us 2 writers and leave the rest to us. We'll get the work done. We don't want any project management or anything like that. If the work is bigger, time is lesser, obviously you'll need more than 1 writer. Correct? Maybe you need 3 writers. What if you need 3 writers? Are you going to use 3 junior writers? I would not recommend that. What would I recommend? Maybe 2 juniors writers with 1 senior writer. So one person can review their work and so on. So as I said, a number of times the client will depend on me for inputs. Sometimes the client says, okay, give us 4 senior writers, and my recommendation to them is, please don't go for 4 seniors. Go for 2 seniors, 2 juniors. Why? Your overall cost also comes down and it becomes easy to manage the projects also. If there are 4 senior writers, all 4 chaps will have their own egos. At least the junior guys will listen to the senior guys saying that he is senior. Correct? So less of project management issues. So what will be the basis of work? Person day, person month, correct? Fixed price. So that is a project. So sometimes we as an organization, because we are outsider, the client says, give me a fixed price for this. And then it's your risk to do it in that price. Correct? Or then give me a person day kind of a rate. Right? So we have got a project being done for a reputed company right now. So there we have quoted a fixed price for the entire project. We know the scope includes 3 documents. We have done the calculation of how many writers, what will be the process, what tools are going to be used, how much of work to be done on-site, off-site and so on. And then we have given them a fixed cost. And that's how they wanted it. Whereas there is another company, it's actually next to this earlier company. They are practically in the neighboring buildings in the same commercial IT park. So for the other company, we have given a writer on an hourly basis. That writer stays or works in their company only, never comes here unless there is a need. Correct? So she is a full-time writer allocated to that company's project. Now here the company gets the advantage of not using that writer only on one project. So they may give her a PPT saying that why don't you work on this for next 2 days. They may give her an installation guide. They may give her a video saying that why don't you produce this video. So there now it's not restricted by one deliverable. So she has produced, I believe, something like 3 help files, about 25 videos so far, and maybe 6 or 7 other documents. Why? We are going to charge by hours. So end of the month we take a timesheet and we say, okay, this writer has worked for you for 170 hours. These are our charges. Correct? So some clients would prefer that. Who's going to take the printouts? Is it going to be the client? Is it going to be Technowrites? Typically, we do not give any printouts. Typically nowadays, even the clients don't ask for the printout, because making or maybe sending that printout to others becomes sort of difficult. So they will say, why don't you give us a PDF? Or why don't you give us a Word file? We'll put comments in that. Because at the client's end also, it may not be one person who's working on this. Getting it? So he'll say, okay, I am going to check the first chapter. For the next chapter, I am going to send it to Ganesh. Next chapter will be checked by Shweta and so on. Correct? So that's fine. So who will take the printouts if at all it is required? How many drafts are required before the document is finalized? The typical value is 2. The third draft is the final draft. And we'll go through this again and again in due course of this particular course. Will any flowcharts be included? No. Excellent. Yes. Okay. Are they ready or you want us to draw them? Because afterwards the client may easily say, no, we always knew that the flowcharts would be required. In fact, we thought that is included in the timeline that you have given or the quotation that you had given. Remember what I said the other day? Never give the client estimate in the very first meeting. Correct? Get all the inputs. Don't be in a hurry to give an estimate. Right? Will any infographics be included? Special type of graphics which are used to understand systems and so on. Is there a glossary of terms ready? If not, who's going to prepare it? Are the FAQs required? FAQs is frequently asked questions. In many companies, they actually give a separate document called as FAQs. That's okay. Find that out as well. Are the error messages ready? If yes, do they need to be described? Sometimes the error message is so cryptic that the user is not able to make any sense out of it. For example, it says something like an error has occurred at 1234 hex. System will restart. Now what happened to the data that I have entered? Is it gone? Is it saved? Will I be required to enter it again? What happened to the report that I was trying to generate? What happened to the mail that I was trying to send? What happened to the file that I was trying to upload? correct? So a number of times the error messages may also have to be described in a user-friendly language, saying that an error has occurred, the data that you entered will not be saved, and you are requested to re-enter the data when the system reboots. That's a much better error message, correct? Will the documents be translated in any other language? The client says why? Well, if they are going to be translated, we have to follow certain guidelines or what is called as simplified English, correct? So if you follow simplified English guidelines, then the documents becomes easy to translate. Moreover, then you are also able to use what is called as machine translation, where a computer translates as much portion of the document as is possible, and the rest is done by a human being, and the human being will also check what the computer has done. By doing that, not just your translation price, but even your translation cost will come down, correct? Recently we got a quotation for translating a document. This document was about 22 pages, and we got a quotation for translating it from English to Hindi. The quotation that was given to us was 30,000 rupees. It's a 22-page document. I think for any translator, it's not going to be more than 3 days' work, correct? Now imagine what amount of that you will be able to save by using simpler words. So there are certain standards for that, right? So simplified English is one of those standards. Let's go ahead. Part 2, the technical information part of the questionnaire, correct? So this is to be filled, whatever. Now, though I am saying this here, this question is to be filled by Technowrites representative only. I have written that over here, but sometimes the client may even say that, Mac, why don't you send me that questionnaire? I will try to fill in as much as possible from my end, or I'll give it to my developer, ask them to write as much as they can. Because when we have a meeting or when we are going to have the phone call or a web conference call, we may not have that person accessible. So why don't I write down all the points? So a number of times I also share this this questionnaire with my client as a soft copy, saying that you can try to put in as many answers as you can. Otherwise, I'll fill up the answers myself. Correct? So if the help is going to be developed, is it going to be context sensitive help? Which means when you hit the F1 key on a dialog box, the related topic has to open. That's called as context sensitive help. Correct? How do you do that? And all this will be told to you when you learn the RoboHelp. Is it going to be reference help? Will the screenshots be included in the help? Typically the answer is no. Because when the user goes to help, he goes from the application to the help. So after going to the help, again showing in the screenshot may not be required. He is working on the system. From there he has accessed the help. But then some companies say that since we are not going to develop a user guide, put the screenshots also in the help. So let user print the help if they want. That's okay. So it's better to ask this question. Will separate help files be required for every module? So maybe there are multiple modules. So will separate file be required for that? Is any write-up already there? If yes, take a note of that. Sometimes the client may say, oh yes, by the way, we had a previous version for which we had written a user guide, which is like 22 pages, it's already there. So that becomes an input to you. So you take that document, right? Or you take that old help or whatever it is. What type of help are you going to generate? CHM, which is a compiled HTML help, which is Windows 98 standard, but this is going to get obsolete very soon. So is it HTML help, which will be a help that can be hosted on internet, on web? It's also called as web-based help, correct? Or any other types of helps. So right now you have got a lot of apps coming up for, let's say, iPhone or iPad. So iPad has got a different standard for help. Android has got a different standard for help. And tools are available that will help you to generate an Android help or even an iPad help. Correct? So you should ask these questions. Who will give the map IDs? Map IDs are the numbers assigned to help topics for the sake of making them context sensitive. So once again, you will understand this probably when you learn RoboHelp. Who will link the help to the application? Will it be the client's programmer or Technowrites writer or whom? Are there any examples of code or real life cases to be included in the help? If yes, who is going to provide them? Do you have them ready? Okay, let's mention something about them over here. Is there a limit on maximum number of topics? Somebody may have that limit, or maximum number of pages, saying that, oh, by the way, I don't want that user guide to be more than 70 pages. because people get scared, they don't read at all. Correct? Paper-based documentation. Will the final deliverables be printouts or soft copies? As I mentioned earlier, so typically we give the soft copy. Now we actually hand over all the source files. That is a Technowrites standard. What do I mean by that? My deliverable to the client could be a PDF file. But then when the project is over, I also give him the Word file so that he can do the rest of the work on his own if required. Or I may actually deliver the help source files along with the output file, saying that now this is entirely in your custody. Now typically when I do that, I ask the client to send me an acknowledgement mail saying that the project has been completed, I am giving you a sign off, we have also received the files. Once I get that mail, I delete those files from my record so that they cannot be misused within my office or anywhere else. Correct? Now if printout is required, who is going to print? Any limit on number of pages? Correct? What do you want? Do you want a user guide, admin guide, a training material, and so on? For work to be done in the client's office, what is a backup file location? So yes, you are working in the client's office. Good. Where are you going to take backups? Because something happens to your machine, then what happens? So you should back up your files. Is the client going to give you printer access? Most of the times they would, but better to ask. Is the client going to give you email access? You don't want to have issues saying that writer has sent a mail without asking me. Better ask all these questions. Will you be given an internet access? In one of our clients' office, they did not give our writers email access to the outside world. They were given an email access to the internal mails only. So whenever they had to send me a mail, what they had to do is they had to send a mail to their manager saying that please forward this mail to Makran. The manager would send me the mail. I used to send my replies to the manager would then internally forward it. And this was done for protecting the intellectual property, confidentiality clause. And it is normal if that happens. Don't be nervous if the client says, no, you are not going to get internet access. If he is saying that, baddu normal che, everything is normal. Correct? There are a number of clients who say that. Right? So, daily report format, if any, they'll say, yes, we have got a web-based reporting system, you will be required to log your time there. This is even more important when you are going to be billing on a per hour basis, saying that this is the amount of work done by this writer. Correct? Any time sheet or anything like that. So, if there is a time sheet to be filled, Excel sheet, maybe there isn't a separate online system. So, sometimes this could be as good as simple as a Word file or an Excel sheet. Sometimes it could be an online system where you need to fill up the report and so on. So, that brings me to the end of this particular questionnaire. Any questions? Yes.
So this questionnaire is quite exhaustive.
Yes.
Can we not have different questionnaires for different type of documents? Like for that application, there will be different set of questions. For
right now we have got two questionnaires. One is for software, one is for engineering product.
Okay.
Correct? Within software, we have not divided that into more questionnaires. Number one, this questionnaire is your starting point. Correct? Now, you may not really ask all the questions. You will have to intelligently filter out questions which are not relevant. Correct? So, you may not really ask all the questions. Some of the questions you may be able to answer all by yourself. Now, things like will I be given internet access, email access and so on and so forth will be irrelevant if you are an employed writer. Because you are a writer employed by that company. So, why are you asking them? I think it's assumed that you will be given all these accesses. So, then these questions don't have to be asked. Who's going to take printouts? I don't think this question is relevant in that case. So, as I said, many of these questions are relevant because we are an outside agency. And why do I share it in this format? Because some of our students, or many of them, would like to do freelancing. So, they should ask these questions that we are asking because they are also relevant to them. But for an employed writer, many of these questions will be irrelevant. So, we have not prepared a separate web application questionnaire. We just have a generic questionnaire. Moreover, I have realized that giving too many things will also confuse a person like you who is getting into tech writing. Then I will have to ask you questions to determine which questionnaire to use. Are you getting it? So here it's a simple thumb rule. Software, this one, engineering, that one. What if you get a translation inquiry. What if somebody wants you to develop a website? None of these questions will be relevant. Are you getting it? And that's where our role plays and all that are important. You should look at them. So by giving you a questionnaire, we are trying to develop your common sense. We are not trying to suppress it. So I am not saying that this questionnaire will address all the requirements. It won't. In fact, nobody will be able to make questionnaires that will access or address all the requirements that you may face in your career. They won't. So something has to come out of you. But these are starting points. So let's say if there was a different, you mentioned about web application. So on that page itself, right? So somewhere here, I may start asking different questions. Correct? Or typically the client will also give you a lot of information. When you ask him, okay, is it a web application? He says yes. He doesn't stop there. He goes ahead and explains that web application to you. So then you can record it here or create another file to record that information. Absolutely. Correct? But if I ask all that information here, people will say, boss, half of the questions are getting answers no. So why are we putting them here? So this is sort of a generalized. And as I said, it's the starting point. And trust me, it's a good starting point. Because this is what we use for our business also. And we have realized that this is a very good starting point. Correct? You go with this questionnaire, you start asking the relevant questions. The client will be happy that they are interacting with a good, intelligent person who is capable of asking the right type of questions. Now, somewhere you will have to filter out all those questions which are not relevant. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
So in this user study section, there is this question: which of the following sites or web services may be user Facebook or Google? What is the importance of the
Importance is to find out how technology savvy that person is. Correct? So let's say he says, yes, all our users have got their Facebook page. Correct? Or our users have got their own blog. Well, so they know what is web publishing. They know how to share a photograph. They know what is tagging. Correct? They know how people are replying to their friend requests. Are you getting it? If they know Google Plus, they know what are circles. They know what are communities. If they are on LinkedIn, they know what is skill recommendation. They know what is a recommendation. If they are on LinkedIn, they know how to build a profile. Correct? So these are the more educated type of users. Correct? So if anybody says yes, Google yes, Wikipedia yes, YouTube yes, Script yes, LinkedIn yes, Facebook yes, Google Plus yes, what are you dealing with? You are dealing with a very IT savvy person here. So maybe simple things need not be explained to him, because he'll say, but you are assuming that I don't know anything. So somewhere I'll have to draw that line saying that my user knows this much and I'm only going to capitalize on what he already knows. There is no point in telling the user what is a hyperlink. Are you getting it? There is no point in telling anybody practically today what is a chat. Everybody knows that. Correct? There is no point in telling the user that you send a meeting invite. Well, he has been working on Google Plus. He has been working on TeamViewer. He knows how to share a keyboard, how to share a display. Are you getting my point? So that's why we ask all those questions. Now, one relevance, for example, does he know YouTube? Of course. In fact, we find him on YouTube every day. Good. So we can create a demo video of your software and we'll publish that on YouTube. Why? Is it secret? No, it's a demo video, so cannot be secret. Right? So why not publish it on YouTube? People say, good idea, Makaran. Thank you for suggesting. Are you getting it? So a number of times you will come up with ideas based on all this. Any more questions?
One more thing, when we are getting source files and asking them to install software, are we not giving away our future business?
We are. But then do you think that all these customers are going to come back to you?
For maintenance part,
Yeah, they may not. They may not come back to you in the first place. Second, you are increasing your own headache of maintaining the source files. Now you will have to keep the source file secured because you have signed a NDA. You will have to have a backup hard disk. That backup hard disk should be in your cupboard or something like that. What if something happens to that backup? Now you are legally responsible because you have told the client that I am holding your source file, it's my property. So now you are responsible. Correct? So it sort of increases that complication. So are you departing, are you parting with your future business? To some extent, yes. But in fact, many times the client will actually come back saying that here is the source file, now do the changes, give it to us.